We'll highlight two of our 42 committees. These are two of our more active committees, and I think we're going to be quite surprised to find out the many things that the people on these committees are doing in our community. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to Sykes, and he's going to talk to us about Preserve Planet Earth. Followed by Jerry Watson to speak on the Youth Exchange Program.
Thank you, President Dave. Apparently I'm going to have to talk real fast to catch up with my slides. But, I think we can do that. To paraphrase the late great coach Vince Lombardi in one of his notable speeches, gentlemen, bracket and ladies, this is a tree. Now, for those of you who don't know that the Preserve Planet Earth Committee plants trees, you're either falling asleep after dessert or you really haven't been paying attention. To date, we've planted roughly 250 trees. We've planted trees by Willits Run. We've planted trees in Farquhar Park. We've planted trees on Jackson Street. Sounds like the start of a Dr. Seuss book, like this should rhyme. We've planted trees on the avenues, on the rail trail, on Market Street and King Street and East Philadelphia Street. And the question is why? Why are we planting all of these trees? After all, we're not the garden club. We're not, although we do work with Keep York Beautiful and Keep York County Beautiful. What's the point? Well, this whole idea of planting trees started several years ago and is based on an article which was in Time magazine that had to do with the consequences concerning the loss of what they call the tree canopy in our cities. Now, why do we care what the tree canopy is in our cities? Well, there's several reasons. First of all, as every seventh grader knows, trees give off oxygen and absorb carbon dioxide. What you may not know is trees also pull in particulate out of the air, so trees are helpful for a smog problem in the city. Trees interrupt rainwater. Not only do the roots help to absorb it, but the leaves help to interrupt it on its way to the ground, and therefore every drop that comes down doesn't immediately find its way to the Cadorus. And last but not least, trees help to make it cooler. Any of you that have a home or have lived in a home that had a big oak tree or a big maple tree right outside your house already know this, but it has the same effect in cities. In fact, it can have as much as a 5 to 8 degree effect on coolness in an area that has been planned and planted for trees. Now, truthfully and honestly, the best effect to accomplish all of this is done with big trees. What you'd really like to have are big oak trees and big maple trees and big elm trees, which are really not practical to be replanting in a city with buildings and houses 20 feet from the street. So the Preserve Planet Earth Committee does the best it can with trees that are hospitable and are adaptable to living in a city environment. We do the best that we can. And yes, we do make York more beautiful. Who in this room is not delighted to drive up Market Street in April? And it's been an unbelievable commitment, and very particularly I would point out Julie Landis, to whom you don't ever want to try to sell a used car, and Aaron Jacobs for an amazing amount of work to both coordinate and collect funds. Just try wrestling with DCR sometime for money. I should know my wife works for them. And trees are not the whole story of the Preserve Planet Earth Committee. Our mission statement, which we lifted from a Preserve Planet Earth Committee in Singapore, reads like this. Rotarians are encouraged to live environmentally conscious lifestyles, to increase the number and diversity of environmental service projects carried out by clubs, and to promote awareness of the critical environmental issues affecting their communities and the planet. Just kind of a long way of saying what we would like to do is get you involved in the environment, teach you about the environment, and look over your shoulder to see that you're doing a good job. The Preserve Planet Earth Committee is both a district and a Rotary International Committee. Globally, Rotary is committed to cutting water consumption by 300 million liters. by cutting greenhouse gases by 120 million tons and to provide pure water and electricity for disadvantaged people around the world. But we didn't start with planting trees. In fact, the Preserve Planet Earth Committee in this club started about 20 years ago. It might even be longer than that. No need for a show of hands, but how many in here remember the recycling closet? Maybe I should have a show of hands that wouldn't fall on dead ears. But anyway, when recycling was introduced as a mandatory announcement in communities, Rotary jumped to it and put together a committee and a program to introduce people to what could be recycled and what could not be recycled. And out of that grew the Preserve Planet Earth Committee as we see it today. Although he tells me he was not the first, but one of our first chairmen was Dick Hershey. And Dick Hershey had a lot to do with initiating our involvement in the rail trail. And if you've not been there, it's between Grantley to just past Richland Avenue. And one of the big regrets I have is that we really never took before and after pictures. If you've been out that way, you know there actually is a dump behind the rail trail where we've developed that. But when we got involved with it, it was a dump. It's a garden now. And we owe a lot of that transformation from being a dump to being the garden that it is to Frank Reed, who initiated and got us involved with planting wildflowers and cultivating and mowing. And we probably put 25 trees in our area of the rail trail. And today our Sultan of Sweat and Water, in fact we might even call him the water boy, is Fred Fay, who's all by himself keeps those trees alive. Again, to use my Lombardi analogy, this is a storm drain marker. Under the tutelage and the leadership of Bill Meals, we planted, probably not the right word, but I like it, we planted about 500 of these. More importantly, we put a storm drain marker on every single storm drain in the city of York. What it says is no dumping drains to river. And we like to think that we can change the thinking in the environment of people to realize that half pint of paint thinner that they just wanted to dump down the storm drain ends up in the Codorus, which ends up in the Susquehanna, which ends up in the Chesapeake Bay, which ends up in the Atlantic Ocean, and it's a problem. We had involvement from the city, from the county commissioners, and the mayor helped us to put the very last storm drain marker in front of what was then new Sovereign Bank Stadium. Tom Warman helped the get involved in the educational part of our program, and some of you, probably many of you, have participated. We planted a tree, distributed trees, and read a book and distributed books at one time or another to just about every third grade class in the city of York. And we're still doing that. We still are running an educational committee. Lynn Becker heads up our program to present classes for organizations as well as school groups on watersheds and protecting the watershed and what that means to the environment. We are, as you can see from my shirt, participant and proud to participate in the York County Envirothon. We contribute to the Envirothon, which gets our logo on the back of the shirt. We provide judges for them. And the York County Envirothon is an amazing event. It involves roughly 1,500 young people every year. It is the largest Envirothon in the state. And if you've read the paper in the last couple of years, this is not the first time. This is the umpteenth time that the York County Envirothon has sent a team to the national competition. It's a wonderful organization, wonderfully run organization, which we do. I encourage everybody to participate in. We usually get to be scorers and see the presentations, and it's a great day to watch the kids, and the kids get involved in nature and an understanding of the environment and what it does. We've also presented speakers to this club, one of whom we just got to join, which there's a danger in speaking here apparently, was Tom Smith, and we had Jessica Spraker from DCNR to talk about non-native species. We had a talk on beehive collapse, and We've also, again with Tom Smith's help, gotten involved in cleaning up dump sites. And a couple of years ago, Tom had an article in the paper that there were over 200 illegal dump sites in the city of York. Now, we didn't clean them all up, but we did clean some up. We cleaned one up at Hoffman Fields, one up at Eberts Lane, one at Willits Run, and one out by the Salvation Army store out in East York. But those original 200 plus dump sites are gone. It's not to say that they won't be replaced, and it's not to say we're not going to continue to do that, but we're going to have to expand our search to the county, and that's a good thing. So what's next? Under Chairman Aaron Jacobs, we're going to continue to plant trees, we're going to continue to maintain the rail site, we're going to continue to educate and clean up dump sites, and we think we'd like to get involved, and hopefully with some help from J.T. Hand, a member of the committee, New York Water Company, and see how we can participate on a local level with furthering Rotary International's mission to provide worldwide water quality. So come join us and be involved in making a difference that your grandchildren will recognize. Thank you. President Dave, I'm really disappointed because I really wanted to be introduced. I mean, come here, speakers always get introduced. So, Jerry, here's Jerry.
Thank you, Al. I really appreciate that vigorous introduction. I was sort of thinking to myself as I was listening to Al drone on and on that the people that know me very well are probably thinking, how did anyone as calm, patient, and nurturing as Jerry become chair of the youth exchange? I've known me 30 years. It has to be a mystery. Well, the mystery is, it's no mystery in Rotary. I got to be chair because Bert sort of railroaded me into it, but that's okay. It's another story for another time. So I'm going to get you back on schedule, Dave, because we're going to move right through this. Youth exchange. Last week, our speaker was Chris Clark. Our speaker of Rotary is Chris Clark, and he's president of that body. He's also the father of Allison Clark, who was an outbound exchange student last year. And Chris went on, and I think he gave a great presentation on what it's like to be the parent of an exchange student and about Allison's experience. Now she's at Boston College, and I think she's much richer for the experience of being part of our program. Each year, we have inbound students out. That's people who come in from other countries, outbound students. Our students go elsewhere. And we have short-term students, and that's a one-on-one exchange, 3 weeks here, 3 weeks there, one-on-one in the summer, so they're not going to school. You get to hear these students speak every year. They come back, and we graciously give them 10 minutes to talk about their year in York, Pennsylvania, or their year in Croatia, or wherever they are. And you hopefully get to meet them, you get to meet the parents, and know what an effect this has on these students and their lives. But being part of Youth Exchange doesn't only change the lives of the students, it changes our lives as well through our interaction with the students and their families. And I think being part of our committee, it affects our lives even more. And I thought maybe the best way for me to explain this effect is to talk to you a little bit about my experiences on the committee, and I've been on the committee for 15 years. I joined the Rotary Club in 1998. I really can't believe it's been this long. And at the time, my sponsor, Mark Allenor, suggested that I join the Youth Exchange Committee. I didn't really even know we had a Youth Exchange Committee when I joined it. But I did join because Bert told me I had to join a committee. So I joined the Youth Exchange Committee, and I sort of tried to hide in the room for about a year or so that no one would give me anything to do. And I sort of tried to figure out, what is it that these people on this committee do? And after about 2 years, I agreed to be a co-counselor for an inbound exchange student from Japan named Lisa Rashimura. And I still remember the day I got to meet Lisa. She was 16 years old, very quiet, very well behaved, just a great kid. She had English lessons probably her whole life. Her English was not so good. A lot of our students get here, although they've studied English for years and years, more than our kids going out, you know, it's not till they get here and they're immersed in the language that they really improve. But she had a great year. She went to Dallastown, and I really enjoyed getting to know Lisa. So it's time for Lisa to go home, and her host family is going to take her to Harrisburg Airport, and I decided, well, I'll go up there and I'll wish her off. So I get to Harrisburg Airport and I see a Japanese girl in traditional student uniform. I said, well, Lisa put her uniform back on because so she can go home. Then I realized it wasn't Lisa, it was a Japanese girl coming to the United States. Then Lisa showed up, and she had flip-flops, jeans, a halter top, and she had dyed her hair red. And I figured, well, her Americanization is now complete. And I can't imagine the greeting she's going to get from her parents. By red, it was tinted red. It looked very nice, actually. She went back, she completed her high school studies in Tokyo, and she returned to the U.S. and attended the University of Tennessee, where I assume she's graduated, but I haven't talked to her in a couple of years. About 2 years later, I got my first experience as a counselor to an outbound student, and that student was Michael Newman, who also went to Dallastown. And Michael was going to spend his year abroad in Turkey. So he leaves, he goes to Istanbul, he arrives in Turkey, and there's no one there to greet him. So after studying Turkish for only a couple of months, somehow he communicates with the people at the airport. They get a hold of the Rotary Club. They find his host family, and eventually he goes off and lives with his first host family. Well, if you remember 2002, that's the year the U.S. bombed Baghdad. So, of course, at the Youth Exchange Committee, we're very concerned about Michael's safety in Turkey. If you look at the map, they're right next to each other. So the district suggested that all Middle Eastern students be returned home. But it was up to the student and the parents. And Michael said he wanted to stay in Turkey, and his parents agreed that he could stay there. And he did, and he completed his year in Turkey, and really without incident. So when he got back, he comes to give his speech to the club, and I said, what was it like being an American in Turkey during the Gulf War? And he says, everything was great. He says, I just told everyone I was Canadian. Well, Michael now lives in Detroit. He's married, and I believe he has a child, but I'll have to confirm that. I see his parents. They still live in Dallastown, and they still talk about Michael and his experience with the Rotary Club and the Youth Exchange Committee. We also, the York Rotary Club has a inbound for all the district's Rotary students, exchange students in November. And every year, ours is a little different than every other one that they do because we actually host the students in our home for one night. So last year, my wife and I hosted 4 girls, one from Germany, Japan, the Czech Republic, and Ecuador, in our home, fed them dinner. We take them, there are other activities you take them to, but it's really an interesting time to hear the students all talking in English and all talking about their experiences in the United States and what it's like to live in South Central Pennsylvania. Well, I was chair of this committee last year. I'm starting my second year, so I got a year under my belt. Last year, one of our students was having some issues adjusting to school. That was Maya. Those who had met Maya, she's now returned back to the Czech Republic. So I had to meet with the superintendent of the Dallastown School District and our MK Urban from York Suburban School District, like how can we help Maya adjust to life in a school that's bigger than the town she comes from. And then just last week, I'm exchanging emails with the youth exchange officer in San Bernardo, Chile, because we're trying to get arrangements made to have a host family for our student in West York. Anyone here live in West York? If you do, please see me afterward. So we have Christopher Pinto coming in about 2 weeks. We're still trying to find a host family. But my point here is our committee, not only are we dealing with people right across the street, but we're dealing with people all around the world. I mean, with Skype and the internet, it's pretty amazing how quickly we can talk to Chile or Ecuador or wherever we need to talk, and how they send me notes in English. I haven't figured out yet, but they do. In the movie City Slickers, Curly, the guy played by Jack Palance, says, life is one thing. I can't really remember what his one thing was, but to me, life is about relationships. And Rotary is about relationships, and our committee is all about relationships. I've been a member of the committee and the club for 15 years, and I really believe that my involvement in this committee has enhanced my experience with Rotary. So you get out of it what you put into it. The more you put into it, the more you get out of it. And our people work very hard. I mean, we have a lot to do. We have a lot of responsibilities. But we also are richly rewarded for what we do because of our relationships with these students and their families and each other, because we have to work hard and work together to get these things done that we need to get done. So I hope you'll help us in carrying out our mission, which is to promote peace and understanding around the world with a cultural and educational exchange. And it's truly an educational exchange. The students have to go to school and then pass. So why don't you help us? You can join the committee. We can always use new members. You can be a host family, particularly if you live in West York, if I didn't say that before. Or you can just tell some students you know about how great this program is and how it can change their life. And I appreciate all the help you can give us. Thanks.
Thank you very much for our new members, and yes,